Hello and welcome to the Art of Intuition podcast. My name is Susan Jane and I am your host for the podcast. Now, today we're talking about our intuitive natures and it's how we receive our information because we are all intuitive. We're naturally intuitive. It is part of our human nature, and that's why I call it our intuitive natures. Now, this is the way our intuition will send messages to us. It's a way of our intuition being able to connect with us. And it does it in some people it's like a gut feeling in the body, and some it's more about the emotions or flashes of insight. Even people have their creative side of it. So they'll find spiritual signs while they're downloading and while they're creating. So knowing what your strongest intuitive nature is helps you recognize and trust in yourself, and it helps you to deliver that confidence and that ability to make those decisions when you need to, especially when life is sort of sending you a little bit all over the place. It certainly happened for me as part of a very emotionally abusive relationship. I spent years second guessing myself, not knowing what to do. I was walking on eggshells. I struggled to make any sort of decision in my life. It was really painful, and it got to the stage when the marriage broke down. I for about a month I could not make a decision about what to eat for dinner. I fed on jam sandwiches. That was the only thing I could think of. So I was so emotionally flat, so um, exhausted that I just struggled to trust myself. I struggled to have the confidence to make those decisions. I wasn't broken. I just wasn't all there. So I had to give myself that permission and that space to be able to hear my intuition, to be able to start picking up those messages and start to listen to them and trust them. Now, our intuitive nature is obviously our intuition, our inner wisdom, our soul, our spirit, whatever terminology you want to use. It's the information that is coming through to us, and it comes in the four different ways. The physical intuitive, the mental intuitive, the emotional intuitive, and the spiritual intuitive. Now, the first thing I do want to say is that we have all of those intuition coming through. We have all that information coming through. It's just at different times in our life, we are stronger in different areas. So when I first started out as a child, I was picking up emotional intuition quite strongly. I could walk home from school in primary school and go, mum's not feeling right. I could pick her emotions up from there. So we all have these abilities to do that, and especially as a child. But as I was starting to be more proactive in understanding and learning to trust myself after my 20-year marriage breakdown, it was then that I started to sort of really step right through it. And the first area that I really noticed my intuitive messages coming through was in the physical sense. So, as a physical intuitive, I was feeling them coming through my body. I could experience, like you say, that gut feeling, that butterflies in your stomach. Your body may tingle, you have energy shifts and things, you start to feel things, actually feel them in your body. One of the other aspect, I was doing a lot of healing work then, and so the physical intuitive is definitely a healer because they can feel things in that context. And what would happen is my hands would go all motley, a funny motley color. And I would know straight away that somebody near me was needing healing energy. It didn't mean I had to fix them, but I would send them healing energy to be able to allow their body to take on board what they needed and to heal them that way. But I started picking these sensors up, and I could feel things. I would work like as a Reiki therapist, and you would feel the energy moving over the body, over the different chakras, over the different areas. So, being a physical intuitive was really important at that stage when I was doing those healings, and really important for us to get an understanding of how we experience things. My partner often feels things, and he'll have a, oh, I know the book I was talking about. Oh, I was thinking of, sorry. Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And at Noon Hill, The body is the barometer of the soul. Books that I used a lot. So when people were having ailments in their body, you could relate that to something else. So you started to get this understanding that their intuition was sending them messages and creating some of these illnesses or these disturbances in order for it to be addressed, in order for it to be assessed and looked at and taken forward. So when we're looking at that physical aspect of it as a healer in that side, we will pick that up. But as we go through our lives, as we get an understanding of each of those intuitive natures, we start to understand the different ways we feel them. Now, I don't always feel them physically anymore, but I still do that. So when I'm doing readings, when I'm doing my psychic and intuitive readings, I can still pick them up. For example, I'll do a body scan and I'll go, okay, so I'm seeing that the ankle is playing up. You've got some ankle issues there. And I may even feel it in my own ankle. And knowing that I don't have a problem in my ankle, but I've experienced that feeling there, that sort of helps me get an understanding of when I'm doing a reading. So getting to know these four intuitive natures allows you then to step forward and be able to ascertain which ones are yours and which ones aren't. And that is really, really important for the second one, which is emotional intuitive. Now, if you do want to know what your strongest intuitive nature is, jump on the website. And it is called intuitivenature.com.au. It's Australian business, so you've got to have the AU at the end. Um, so the next one was the emotional intuitive. Now, this one it can be hard because I still struggle with this one now sometimes because I do take on other people's emotions. I am definitely an empath, and as an empath, we do take on other people's emotions, and it can be quite hard to determine sometimes which are yours and which isn't. Just yesterday, for example, we had the electrician around. He was doing some work on the place. Now, he is a friend of my partner's and, nice enough guy, but oh my goodness, he can be so negative sometimes. And he doesn't realize it. He feels he's a very positive person. But the stuff that comes out of his mouth can be so negative or be taken that way. It can be quite triggering. And so I was handling it fine for the day. But by the end of the evening, when the evening came, my partner was home. I said to him, I feel absolutely exhausted. And I felt like I took on his emotional crap, for want of another word. And I pushed back and I protected and all the rest of it. But, a full day of it, you can only handle so much. So when we are connecting with people that are doing things like that, then we do need to be mindful of that. So, okay, I did put up the protection. I did put up all that sort of stuff to start with. It weaned off by the end of the day. So at that evening, it was time for me to release, and I needed to let go of that, and I needed to deal with that myself. So as an emotional intuitive, you're classed as the connector because that is how you will connect. You will notice other people's emotions, or you will feel their emotions, and then you will be able to connect or not connect with those people. And so an emotional intuitive is challenging in its own ways. Same with physical. Like you start to feel things happening. You think, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? You start to feel things in your body. An emotional one is the same. You're feeling like, why am I feeling so uptight? Why am I feeling so down or blue? Why am I feeling this way? Especially when there's no logical reason to it. And one of the things about intuition is there's got to be a bit of a logic to it because the information you get coming through, that those intuitive messages they get coming through, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, has to have a bit of logic to it because you're on this path, you're on this journey for a reason. Sure, you may sort of step off and say, I'm not really sure why I'm doing that, but it feels right. There's still got to be a bit of logic. It still has to feel right. It still has to be, I don't know why I'm doing it, but it feels right. Sorry, I've just got a little tissue. So the emotional connector, the emotional intuitive is the connector. Um, you get to the stage where you're feeling, you just know, and you have a deep empathy for other people, and that's how you become this connector. You will pick up. I remember at one stage being able to walk into the room and I could tell you exactly. what emotions everybody in that room was in, especially at work. I'd go, okay, well, they're not doing too good at the moment. They're just being an asshole, and you could pick it up. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly what their emotions were because emotions vary so, finely, even between love and hate. There's a very, very thin line, but you could feel different things and you could get that understanding to that. So as an emotional intuitive, you are definitely the connector. So be mindful of that. Be protective of your energy. Don't let that get washed out like mine did yesterday. And it still happens. It still happens. Like, we learn all this stuff, but we can still experience those sort of things. So, that's all part of life. That's all part of how we grow and develop. The next one, which is my strongest one, is mental intuition. And the mental intuition is classed as the visionary. Now, why, when I'm when I was in this, when I went through and did the quiz on intuitivenature.com.au, when I did the free quiz on that one, I needed to test it, and mental intuition came through on me. I am a very, very logical person. So intuition, spirituality, all that side of it has a lot of faith in it, a lot of faith in that area there. So to me, everything still has to be have that logical aspect to it, and that's why, with for me, the mental intuition was is the strongest in that way. The hardest part about intuition is you get these thoughts coming through, and you really don't know where they're coming from. You don't know if they're yours when you first start. You don't know if they're yours or whether they're someone else's. Um, you can hear the voices of people that have passed. Now, is that just me or is that actually their voice? And it's really quite challenging in that context. The other aspect is that you're picking up all this information. You have to share that, or you don't have to, but you do when you're doing a reading. You share that information and you're not sure whether that's where it's going and that's the right way. So you're getting all these things coming through and you're just not sure whether they're yours or whether they're the person's that you're reading. Now, majority of times it's the person you're reading, but it's quite funny when I'm doing some readings, I will say to somebody, especially when it comes to one lady I had the other week, and I said to her, I'm not too sure if this is for you or for me, but you need to slow down on the wine. And she just laughed because it was for her. But you know what? It was probably for me as well. So, because we'd been going through a bit of a rough spot, and I, yeah, certainly hit the wine a little bit more than normal. So these are the sort of things that you're bringing through, and you're getting them as thought patterns or as feelings or emotions coming through. But mine are definitely stronger in that mental aspect. So I get them that way. And again, I want to actually reiterate that a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, they are so intertwined that, I'm not a full mental intuitive. I still bring in the emotional side, I still bring in the physical side, I still bring in the spiritual side. It's just mental tends to be a little bit stronger in my area. I tend to resonate with that one a little bit more. And I'll give you an example of that sort of later too. So the visionary, I am somebody who I do reflect. I'm a strong reflector, but I'm a strong reflector in a quicker sense. So if something's happened, I tend to reflect on it quite quickly, and not go too far back unless I need to unless I need to go back into the past. I tend to be more of a visionary. I tend to be more focused on going forward. What do I need to do now in order to help me going forward? So I do sometimes have a few issues in that because I'm so forward thinking that I'm not necessarily enjoying the moment. So there's another area there. But a mental intuitive is a visionary. And so if you do want to get a bit more understanding of the visionary aspect of it, it's good to go to somebody who does have that area there. The next one is spiritual, which is a spiritual intuitive is the creative. Now, a creative person, an artist, in any way, shape, or form that they're an artist, may not always feel that they are very spiritual. But what they don't realize is that they're bringing through those messages within their art. Now, whether it's painting, whether it's pottery. It doesn't really matter. Or that just in that zone, being in that zone will allow them to actually bring in those intuitive messages. So I know I get to the stage where I just want to do some painting. I don't care what I'm painting. It's not really important. I want to do some creativity. I just want to create something. And in doing that, it allows me to have these spiritual messages come through. The other side, I see a lot of the spiritual messages that when they do come through is through dreams, is through even though the mental intuitive is the visionary, you'll see the spiritual is a lot of the vision. They see the imagery. And I'll often pick that up when I'm doing readings too. I'll often see different things and I'll pick those things up. With doing readings, you really do need to have an understanding of those four intuitive natures to be able to bring them all forward because you get messages so strongly in so many different ways. Understanding the different messages that are coming through, if you can swap them around, it gives you better understanding when you're doing readings. So, say I'm getting this picture of a ring. So somebody is either getting married or engaged or it's forever. You're getting this vision of a ring. If you get a feeling that goes with it, and maybe a feeling of happiness, a feeling of excitement, or you see a ring that's broken, there's a feeling of sadness. You're starting to put the pieces together. So it's not just one area that you're looking on, you're looking at all four areas of how you can bring that information through. And sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll go, well, what does that mean? Like I know what it means to me, but what does that really mean? Is it right for that person? And usually it comes through that way. So getting a really good understanding of how we're receiving those intuitive messages allows us to push that forward, allows us to have the confidence and the trust. And it takes a while to get there, but you will get there. So, the spiritual creative, if you feel like, if you have that calling to be creative, that's what it's all about. It's about being in the flow. Now, being creative could be just journaling, what do they call the automatic writing? It can be that way. So your body's doing something, and so the body is concentrating on doing something, creating something, and that allows those spiritual messages to come through. So there's lots of different ways that we can do this, and when you start to tune into those areas, you start to get a better understanding of it. So I'll just flick back through my little notes here and say, so the physical intuitive, the healer, they sense their intuitive nature is sensing it through their body. They may experience tingles, gut feelings, energy shifts, or physical responses when something feels right or off. And you sort of, oh, you connect through the presence and instinct. Your intuition often speaks through sensations before words. There you go. Emotional, intuitive are the connectors. This intuitive nature feels its way through the world, feels its way. You may pick on the emotion undercurrents in a room, which is what I used to do, feel others' pain or joy, and often just know based on what your heart tells you. You can connect deeply with others and feel a pull towards empathy, healing, and meaning. I often find you'll get somebody will pop into your head and you'll think, oh, I wonder what's going on with them. You're feeling something that's happening there. The mental intuitive, the visionary, this intuitive nature possesses intuitively through thoughts, ideas, and inner clarity. You may get flashes of insight, sudden knowing, or inspired solutions. I often get them. You like to understand, organize, and make sense of things, and your intuition shows up through patterns, timings, and mental precision. You just happen to be there at the right time. Spiritual, intuitive, they're the creative. And this intuitive nature channels messages beyond logic or emotions. You might receive insights through dreams, creativity, art, symbols, or synchronicities. So again, we can collect them on all areas. We're just a little bit stronger on some areas. Now, you may feel guided by something bigger, called to the universe, spirit, or soul. Your intuition often flows in from the unseen. So that's the spiritual intuitive. Now, each of these offers their own wisdom. you're not set in one area. And the whole idea is if we can build up all of them, it allows you to make confident decisions because you can check them off on each area. The other thing I wanted to quickly look at too is that when we look at these, the natures, intuitive natures, we know what the archetype is, the healer, connector, visionary, and the creative. They also go with the elements. So the physical healer is earth, the emotional connector is water, the mental visionary is air, and the spiritual creative is fire. When we take them one step further, which we can take a few more steps, we can actually add them to the zodiac. So, a physical healer, which is an earth element, is Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. So, they tend to relate with those ones better. Emotional connector, which is the water, naturally, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. The mental visionary, which is air, is Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. And I'm an Aquarian. And the mental visionary really suits me. I like that structure. I like that understanding. Spiritual creative fire is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So they've got that passion, that drive, that spiritual creativity to be able to bring those messages through. So, as a physical healer, you will feel this is what you experience. You will feel truth in your body, sensations, pressure, pain, or comfort to guide you. As an emotional connector, you sense through emotions your empathy, your mood shifts, your energy presence. As a mental visionary, you know through thought, flashes of insight, ideas, and inner dialogue. And as a spiritual creative, you channel through spirit, inspiration, divine timing, and soul expression. Sort of makes sense, doesn't it? They're your intuitive nature. So again, if you do want to do the quiz, it's a free quiz. I won't stalk you. It's okay. It's all good. It's on intuitivenature.com.au. That gives you an understanding of that. And I am bringing out a little ebook for it too. So you'll get an ebook. You can jump on and get an ebook too. But I haven't finished that yet. So with each of the ones, again, it's the doorway, getting an understanding, getting a learning. By starting here, it gives you an understanding of even the best way for you to keep developing your intuition, the best way for you to do psychic development is understanding what intuitive nature is your strongest, because that will help you with your psychic development as well. If you are not someone who can sit there and meditate for a very long time, you need to do something physical. Maybe it's more of the physical um, meditations that you need to do, where you're walking and you're pacing and you're doing something physical to be able to allow the information to come through. So it's knowing those areas there will help you make the decisions and make the right choices that you need to make for you, not for anyone else, but for you. And that's what's really, really important with that, knowing that now. Um, so by starting here, we'll anchor ourselves into something real and tangible. Your body has stories to tell, signals to give, and wisdom that's buried beneath the years of doing. Now, the next couple of podcasts are going to go through some of those different areas, and I will relate to the different intuitive natures as I go through. So I wanted to introduce you to what it is so you can get a better understanding as you go through. I am Susan Jane. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, jump in and do the quiz so you can find out what your strongest intuitive nature is. And that's me for now. I'm going to say bye.